Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today I'm going to talk about the 5 most common low elo mistakes that I see. Oftentimes in my videos I'm telling you guys to find a couple small things to improve on at a time, and these are going to be some of the key things that you might want to look to improve in your gameplay first if you find yourself stuck in low elo or making a lot of these types of mistakes. So the first mistake is going to be overstaying or basically not recalling in time for your items and just over pushing after getting a lead and things like this. So for example, in this clip here, you saw that we just got a kill in lane. Oftentimes people will go for the Scorpion. They'll try to push an additional wave. They'll do all those things. Now, I don't need to do that in this scenario because I have my steel caps and my longsword already. I'm not going to benefit from pushing this additional wave. I'm just going to put myself in a position to possibly get ganked from the enemy jungler. Now, say that I needed to get steel caps and I was just, 1 or 2 minions away, then I can stay to get those, 1 or 2 minions. But instead, I can just use my advantage that I now have in items to use the Scorpion as a bait. I don't necessarily have to use the Scorpion, as a way to always just push and push and push a lead bigger and bigger, because a lot of times I'm going to end up putting myself in a situation where I can die. So the main thing is overstaying and not recalling in time for items, especially on item power spikes, is a very common mistake that a lot of people make in low elo. So the next most common mistake is overgrouping. This is a very common mistake that people do. They don't really have a purpose behind why they're in whatever position they are in. So oftentimes people will go straight to the mid lane out of their base because they see a potential fight breaking out, and they'll just try to fight, and then sometimes they'll win the fight, sometimes they'll lose the fight, maybe they'll get a kill, maybe they'll die. It's really random. Deciding on when to actually rotate for objectives and when to rotate for fights and all of these things, go to mid, go to sides, is very important. Oftentimes, if there's no objective, particularly that is up at the moment, you should go back towards your lane or towards an open lane where there is gold, rather than going to lanes where other people are. Where oftentimes, I'll see low elo players go and group with others on objectives or go fight with them. So even if, say, you are, the mid laner, and then you see your bot lane come to mid lane, even if you want to be in mid lane at that time, maybe you have to give it up and go to the side lane because that's just going to be the best for the team, because your teammates are making the mistake of being in a lane that maybe they shouldn't be at the time. So just understanding that you need to be covering the side lanes, you need to be focusing on that gold rather than over grouping in the early game, and then only really necessarily rotating for fights once you actually have objectives or such to fight over. So the next mistake really does kind of go in the same line as over grouping, and that's going to be a lack of efficiency. People will really prioritize, again, fighting over their own gold. They won't go for turret plates. They won't necessarily rotate to sides where there's a turret up to kill. Instead of, when they have an advantage, they'll often stay in their lane and continue to push despite having already taken the turret, instead of oftentimes, going to the opposite lane, for example. A lot of these types of mistakes of lack of efficiency. When they're a jungler, they're often going to path towards just like wherever they see a gank, instead of making sure that they're focusing on getting their camps and then going for farm after. They're not going to be taking their junglers' camps later in the game or looking to invade and take other camps. So they're going to continue to look for fights. They don't think about the game in terms of gold. They don't think about it in terms of efficiency. They're just focusing on fighting. So you can see a common theme between the overgrouping, the lack of efficiency, the overstaying. All of these things really relate to overfighting, and they could all be kind of summarized into that one category of overfighting, just being concerned with fighting. So if you find yourself, with a lot of deaths, maybe and stats aren't everything, but maybe your KDA is 3 or 4, right, instead of 5, 6, 7, like some top players often are. Maybe that can be a potential indicator that maybe you're fighting a bit too much, because oftentimes if you take a lot of fights, you're going to get kills, but you're also going to get a lot of deaths, which is going to lead to a lower KDA. And so these types of things might be indicators. Or if your gold permitted is rather low on carry rolls, below 800, say, on most carry rolls, is typically not going to be great. And so paying attention to these stats might be able to help indicate to you if these are potential mistakes that are occurring in your games. Okay, and this next mistake may be the most common one that I see, and that's going to be not setting up properly for objectives. So oftentimes you need to be aware of an objective a minute or at least 30 seconds before it's spawning, especially dragons. You need to make sure that you push the lanes before, you recall in order to get your item, whatever items you have available, and then you're in a position where you can be on the mid wave or on the side wave of the objective, making sure that's pushed so you can have access into the river so that you can be the first to join for the fight. These types of things. A lot of players, they really won't necessarily pay attention to objective timers and things like that, and they'll sort of just be like, oh, a dragon just spawned, let me go now, and every once in a while you're not going to necessarily be able to rotate immediately to the fight for various reasons, but a lot of players just don't have this awareness that they should have of when they should be rotating, when the objective is spawning, and these types of things. And just having that general awareness is going to allow you to be in a better position to then win team fights, get objectives, and just overall win the game. Okay, the next thing is going to be giving up on games. Like, truly, it's crazy how many times I see people give up, whether that's literally FFing in a game and straight up, you know, giving up, or that's just them not really trying anymore, or kind of just giving up on the game early. It's extremely rare. I'm sure there are games that are completely just, you know, it's unwinnable. There's no real reason to play. You should still play, but you kind of know you're not going to win. But almost every game really is winnable until it's literally over and your Nexus is destroyed, because frankly, especially in low elo, people don't know how to end the game. They don't properly utilize Elder Dragon to then get the Baron and then end the game. And usually sometimes the person on the enemy team doesn't even take the T-Rex, or just a number of other things that the enemy do to have random throws. I literally, in a Sovereign game the other day, we were all on the enemy Nexus, and we literally started just trolling in front of their Nexus and trying to kill everyone, and then they killed us all, turned the game around and won. And it was completely unwinnable. We were up like 10,000 gold, and then Kaisa Penta kills us at our base because we were trolling, and then they win the game. And it's just like these small things, they add up. You know, if you get that 1 or 2 extra wins, well, that's already a positive, you know, 2 to 4 mark net, because instead of losing a game, you're now winning a game. So say that happens even 5 times, all of a sudden you're going from diamond, say 2, all the way up to basically master, just because of these is not giving up. So that is just one of the main things. Like, people really don't understand how important it is to just play games out, not give up, don't FF unless it's like truly one of those rare cases where you really can't win a game, or where your teammate is AFK or trolling. You know, I get that. I get FFing in those situations, because in those situations you really can't win. And by the way, if you're wondering what FFing means, it means forfeiting or surrendering. It's just a terminology that people use from League PC. But anyways, let's get into the last tip, because I did think of an extra tip that I want to give you guys as well. Okay, so like I said, I did think of a last tip. So I guess, you know, I clickbaited you. It's actually 6 tips, not 5. I'm sorry. You can sue me if you would like. And that is knowing when to actually die. This is an extremely important thing that a lot of people really don't know. Like, even in this scenario here, I'm perfectly fine with dying on the side lane, because I'm drawing a lot of pressure to people, and they can't, you know, they're going to take a really long time to kill me, and my team is going to have time to push and end the game. Obviously, you know, because I'm the best player on the planet, I end up just getting a quadra kill. You know, I get it. You guys can't all be as good as me. It's okay. I understand. But generally speaking, just going on the side lane, making sure that, you know, if you can draw 3 people to you, and then your team can get a Baron, or your team can get Elder Dragon, or your team can end the game with Baron like this, these types of scenarios, it's totally okay to die. Or if there's no objectives up and you see gold in the side lane and you want to die for that gold in the side lane, for example, this is going to be another time where it's perfectly okay to die. Just understanding, you know, gold matters more, objectives matters more, your team getting turrets, all of these things, more than an individual death or your own KDA. Or say you're a support champion and your carry is going in and you see your carry making a dumb mistake. Sometimes you need to flash in to save their life in order for them to not die, because their life might be more valuable than yours. Or you might need to go in to get a 3, you know, person gargoyle proc, so that you're very tanky, even if you know you're going to die, as we saw even earlier in this game as well. I went in, tanked a lot of damage, ended up dying, but it makes enough space for my team to play really well. So just understanding it is okay to die sometimes is very important. But that is going to be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it as always. I do coaching for $15 an hour. As a Sovereign rank 5 player, I feel like it can be pretty valuable for you guys. So if you're interested in that, Talon1169 is my Discord, or just go through the link in the description to my Discord server, and then you can add my Discord through there as well if you're interested. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you tomorrow.